we forced to only shell and attack the front lines? Those are innocent people stuck in trenches to die. Because it wasn't a real war, ladies and gentlemen. And even the author of Jawbreaker, I forget his name. Like, guys, you got Google the CIA section chief, Jawbreaker, just book Jawbreaker, and it's got the guy's name. I can't remember 4 years ago. And he admitted that almost everyone at the different camps in Afghanistan and black sites in Poland, Romania, Albania, Czech Republic, Germany, and the Middle East, of course, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, that almost all of them were completely innocent teenagers, were average age 14. Well, you get these CIA guys on. They can't believe it when you've done your homework. And I brought it up to him, and I said, well, I have all these articles here before your book, you know, because he was all backing up his book saying, and he's got all this proof. And I said, well, sir, it's already in the news at the time. It was hidden in plain view that these were totally innocent people and that it's all a laboratory, all a drill, all a simulation to train battle-hardened troops for other areas of the world and domestically, and that the average bribe was over $20,000 given to Taliban and al-Qaeda to grab innocent teenagers, some as young as 11, and to take them and torture them, just so the media can be told, look, we have camps full of these people. Yeah, it was Jawbreaker, Gary Bernson. That was his name. So all of that is going on. See, I've digressed here. And that's my frustration here on the transmission, is that to just talk about this American who's a patriot who goes to Afghanistan and Pakistan and risk his life at least 6 times, going into some of the most dangerous areas in the world, hunting to kill bin Laden, to even get into that story, to even talk about it, I do you a disservice unless I go into some background. And the background I just gave you is nothing. It was the same story in Iraq, 2003. It was even in the press conferences before, when Rumsfeld said, don't worry, we've already paid off most of the Iraqi Republican Guard generals, and we've paid off the other regular Army generals, and their armies are going to stand down. Then after they had the big victory of the takeover, Rumsfeld came out and said, I never said that. Just that's how dumb they think we are. That's the contempt they have for us. So sometimes our special forces would actually go into the cities and would capture Taliban and al-Qaeda leaders, and they would tell them, take me to your leader, call the CIA, I am to be released. And the military would throw fits about it and would pay them the gold they were ordered to give them and loaded them on C-130s and ferried 6,000 to 8,000, some estimates are 10,000, out to Pakistan. And then they could be used, according to the Chicago Tribune and AP earlier this year, it was declassified, to lead a staged attack in India. Remember that a year and a half ago? The Mumbai massacre. Of course, we had guests on at the time to break down the fact that it was U.S. and Israeli and British forces. And then it came out that the leader of the entire operation was U.S. CIA on record. On record. That was the headline. U.S. agent-led attack. And the guys they found, only one of them alive, were on so many hallucinogenic drugs. I mean, the few videos they showed, those guys were whacked out of their brains. Of course, you have special forces, bomb some people, shoot some people. Then you just release 4 or 5 guys who are on enough liquid LSD and PCP and speed. They were on just everything. Mescaline, they had everything in their blood. So whacked out, those guys were seeing purple rainbow elephants jumping around. And they give them automatic weapons. They didn't even have beards, ladies and gentlemen, not even they weren't even Muslims. They just release them, hallucinating, and have some special forces kill them. Meanwhile, in the attacks, global special forces killed the head of Indian intelligence, who had been on record saying our national intelligence has been infiltrated. He told national TV the day of the attack before they killed him, this was staged by the West. I mean, absolutely staged. 100%. You understand? They just dumped some guys out, bombed out of their gourd on hallucinogens. You see, I already digressed into Gary Faulkner, 50, being held in Pakistan after being stopped near the border with Afghanistan's Nuristan province. Pakistani police announced yesterday he was carrying a pistol, a sword, night vision equipment, and Christian religious books, said Mutaz Ahmed, a police chief in the area. He told police he was there to find and kill Osama bin Laden. But I'm going to move on into the news. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover 4 or 5 stacks, just trying to go over the headlines with brief comments. Then I'm going to go back into what's happening with Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barry Obama, and Michelle Soetoro Obama, and doing exactly what we said they would do. Not letting a good crisis go to waste. He did propose the carbon tax again. He praised the House legislation that's passed and said it was needed in the Senate. And what he's also said he's going to do is use the EPA to implement the carbon taxes through the bureaucracy without the Congress even taking action. And so the message is, we're going to put taxes on coal that supplies 51% of the country's energy conservatively. That will fix any oil spills. Meanwhile, you have BP, a founding member of the carbon tax lobby. I mean, you've heard me for years in my films. Actually, in Endgame, I talk about BP, made 3.5 years ago. Get into the fact that BP is a kingpin, British Petroleum. We cover British Petroleum in Fall the Republican Obama Deception. I mean, we're not just blaming them as being top globalists now. Any of you who've been in an airport or opened a magazine up, it's almost always BP pushing carbon taxes, BP pushing New World Order, BP pushing world government. And I tell you, they staged this. The evidence is overwhelming. Bare minimum, they blocked the response by the Norwegians and the Dutch and wouldn't get rid of the Jones Act that doesn't allow foreign ships in if they weren't built in the U.S. to go from port to port or to be in our waters, engaged in any type of domestic shipping operation. They can haul globalist goods in, but they can't be involved in, I guess, dredging operations or things like that. And this is considered to be dredging, which is asinine. But to go back to what I was talking about with American arrested searching for Osama bin Laden, what do you expect an American to do if you really believe bin Laden carried these attacks out? And 8.5 years later after the attacks, all these years later, 8+ years in Afghanistan, and I remember Bush saying halfway into his administration, 4 years in, he said, I don't care where bin Laden is. I'm not looking for bin Laden. I'm not concerned about bin Laden. I don't, really ever think about him. We were supposed to invade all these countries. Now they say he's in Iran, so we've got to invade Iran. I mean, if they want to invade your backyard, are they going to put up a scarecrow of bin Laden? Maybe eminent domain. They want to take your farm for a highway or take your business, or maybe a local cop wants your wife. He'll just come put a cutout, kind of like they have cutouts at John Wayne or Marilyn Monroe that you see at the mall you can buy, paper cutouts. Just put a paper cutout in your backyard and show up and say, hey, I'm taking your property. Osama bin Laden's in your backyard. I mean, that's how stupid this is. And so to be absolutely clear, our criminal government made a deal with the Taliban and al-Qaeda, who they set up in the 1980s to fight the Russians, who they were in constant contact with. They made a deal with them to just have a stage war, put some conscripts in the front lines, let the West bomb them, let NATO bomb them, let the U.S. bomb them, let the Northern Alliance bomb them. And there was some infighting in some of the Taliban groups. There were some real religious groups that called themselves Taliban who were not allowing any opium to be produced. Of course, the old CIA Taliban didn't like that. And so they came in, had a staged war. Same thing with Iraq in 2003 on record. Paid off the major military to stand down. Then once the U.S. got in, they would stage many of their own IED attacks on our own forces and attack the Shiites and Sunnis to get them fighting with each other as a pretext to stay. We'll be right back.